Good morning, I'm Kenneth Moten.
And I'm Janae Norman. Here are the top 5 things to know this Wednesday. Number 1, former special counsel Robert Mueller has agreed to testify before Congress about the Russia investigation.
It's been subpoenaed for 2 public hearings, July 17th, before the House Judiciary and Intelligence Committees. Last night, President Trump tweeted 2 words: presidential harassment.
Number 2, the crisis at the border. The House has approved billions of dollars in humanitarian aid for migrant families detained after crossing the U.S.-Mexico border. The approval now sets up a showdown in the Republican-led Senate.
And the White House is threatening to veto the bill. It's demanding changes to asylum process.
On to number 3, the war of words between the U.S. and Iran is escalating.
On Tuesday, Iran's president rejected any chance of talks and hurled insults at the White House. Still, President Trump signaled that he's open to negotiations, but he also issued a threat, warning that the U.S. will respond to an Iranian attack on anything American with, quote, obliteration. And he was asked about his plan in case there's a war.
Do you have an exit strategy for Iran if war does break out?
You're not going to need an exit strategy. I don't need exit strategies.
National Security Advisor John Bolton says the U.S. is seeking a path to peace, even as Iran threatens to violate the nuclear deal still in place with Europe. But Bolton warns all options remain on the table.
We head to San Francisco for number 4. It will now become the first city in the U.S. to outlaw e-cigarettes.
That ban goes into effect January 1st. Supporters say it will curb underage use. Opponents believe it will make it harder for adult smokers to quit. And they point out that recreational marijuana is legal.
And in Illinois, smoking marijuana will be legal January 1st. Illinois has become the 11th state to legalize recreational pot. The new law also addresses past convictions for possession.
And finally, number 5, a new survey on what we most regret about college.
Student loans are number 1, but number 2, what we studied as our major.
The survey found that the area of study that comes with the most regret is humanities and liberal arts, including majors like English and history. Low salaries were cited as the main reason why people regretted choosing them, because it's hard to pay those student loans with no money.
Why are we laughing?
Journalism.
Oh, could we go back? Could we go back?
Okay, so that brings us to the question of the day. Do you regret your major? Why or why not? Tell us in the comments or tweet us at ABC News Live.
Philosophy, theater,
right?
Music theory.
Not that those are ones that we think that you should regret.
I'm not saying that.
Just throwing out these majors that are like humanities that maybe you would.
That's what they say.
They,
right.
The study, they.
And we joke about the journalism majors, but we're living happy lives.
I didn't get into the journalism school.
Oh, that's right. She did. Never mind.
So did you just throw shade? I told you that earlier.
Oh, I forgot.
Oh, my gosh.
How about we get to that breaking news overnight from
Yes.
Capitol Hill? After much hesitation, former special counsel Robert Mueller has now agreed to testify in public.
Mueller will take questions about the Russia investigation from 2 House committees in back-to-back public hearings next month. He was subpoenaed after expressing his reluctance to testify, saying his report speaks for itself.
ABC's Trevor Ault has more on what we can expect from Mueller's testimony. Good morning, Trevor.
Good morning, Kenneth. Good morning, Janae. Robert Mueller is, of course, a notoriously silent figure. In the 2 years since his investigation was launched, he has given one 10-minute statement, and Congress is now saying that is not good enough, issuing these subpoenas to get him to come testify.
With the world watching, special counsel Robert Mueller now expected to testify at public hearings July 17th. The House Judiciary and Intelligence Committees both issuing Mueller subpoenas Tuesday night. Democratic members eager to finally ask him questions about the Russia investigation and the 10 instances laid out in the Mueller report where the president may have obstructed justice.
If we had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so.
House Intelligence Chair Adam Schiff telling MSNBC he doesn't think Mueller would consider this a friendly subpoena, but Congress needs answers.
We never felt it was sufficient to rely simply on a written report or a 10-minute statement without the ability to follow up with questions.
After the news broke, President Trump responding on Twitter with his familiar refrain of presidential harassment, this following weeks of accusing Mueller of being biased.
I think Mueller is a true never-Trumper. No collusion, no obstruction.
The president's attorney, Jay Sekulow, now going on the attack against Mueller, telling Fox News,
The first thing he's going to need to answer is his own conflicts of interest. The whole report is incoherent.
Sekulow also telling ABC he expects Mueller's testimony to mirror his report, something that Mueller himself has said before when indicating he didn't want to testify.
And the work speaks for itself. And the report is my testimony.
Another reason Robert Mueller didn't want to testify is because he didn't want Republicans and Democrats to turn that testimony into a spectacle. But he has said that the interference in the 2016 election deserves the attention of every American, and now it appears 3 weeks from now he is going to have that attention. Janae, Kenneth.
And Trevor, so many people will be watching when Robert Mueller is on Capitol Hill. We know he'll face tough questions from Democrats, but he'll also likely face some of those tough questions from Republicans.
That's right. He's going to be taking questions from both sides here. The president's attorney also saying in a statement something that many Republicans have said, which is that they believe there were, in their words, irregularities in how this investigation was conducted, specifically in one instance involving Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Those were two members of Mueller's team who were removed after an anti-Trump text message conversation between the two of them was made public. So as this is all unfolding and before that testimony, Robert Mueller is expected to talk to the Department of Justice to get some parameters about what he is allowed to talk about. He is, of course, a very stoic figure, will likely be straightforward in his answers, but this will be much more than we have ever heard from Robert Mueller. Guys?
Trevor Ault there in Washington. Trevor, you know, you're reporting on such important matters, big issues. There's no way you could regret your major, your college major, right?
I have an accounting minor. I regret that. And Janae, I heard, so you didn't get into journalism school. When I was a communications major in my undergrad, and I took news writing as an online course and got a C-.
Wow. So it seems like you're an even worse student than I am.
This is the quality pedigree that we have at ABC.
There you have it.
But accounting, though, I mean, I'm pretty sure you're good with numbers, right?
Yeah, I think I'm the only journalist I've ever met that likes math.
I was going to say way better than the rest of us.
Yes, well,
that's a low bar.
Know this, we can always count on you, Trevor.
Okay, get me off the air.
Thank you so much, Trevor.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to that crisis at the border. Overnight on Capitol Hill, the House approved billions of dollars in humanitarian aid for migrants, setting up a showdown with the Senate.
It comes amid yet another shakeup in the Trump administration.
Overnight, the House approved $4.5 billion in emergency aid for the border crisis.
The bill is passed.
The bill includes provisions to help children and families taken into U.S. custody. But the White House is threatening to veto the bill. President Trump is demanding changes to the asylum system, even though he says he does support emergency aid.
It's all about humanity. It's about helping children.
It comes amid reports of hundreds of children being housed in deplorable conditions at two facilities in Texas. A Border Patrol station in Clint reportedly denied children soap and toothpaste, according to lawyers who went inside and spoke with them. The children were found filthy and sleeping on the concrete floor with only Mylar sheets.
We found raggedy children freezing, wearing clothes they came in off the border from.
Customs and Border Patrol has denied most of the allegations, saying overcrowding has been the problem. And while the agency said earlier this week that it removed 250 children from the Clint facility, ABC News has learned about 100 children have now been transferred back to that facility. Pictures shown by the Texas Tribune show boxes of diapers and toys at the front door of the facility. Good Samaritans donating the items say they were turned away by the border agents, who say it's against the law for government agencies to accept goods not earmarked by Congress. And as the White House faces anger over the condition of border facilities, a gut-wrenching reminder of the perils migrants face. Graphic images show a father and his 23-month-old daughter after they drowned in the Rio Grande near Brownsville, Texas. Reports say the family from El Salvador was waiting months to be granted asylum before they risked their lives crossing the river. All of this as Acting Border Chief John Sanders announces his resignation. Sources tell ABC News Sanders' resignation had nothing to do with the revelations that the Border Patrol housed migrant children in Texas in conditions a doctor who recently visited the facility likened to torture facilities. President Trump, when asked about Sanders' resignation, said he doesn't believe he's ever spoken to him.
Taking over for Sanders will be Mark Morgan, who served as Border Patrol chief under President Obama. Morgan once said he could spot a future gang member by looking into a boy's eyes.
Well, those conditions at the border are the reason for a planned walkout today by workers of the online retailer Wayfair.
Employees are protesting the company's sales of furniture to a government contractor that's been managing facilities for migrant children. Workers asked management to stop doing business with the contractor Executives refused, so the workers scheduled this afternoon's walkout at Wayfair headquarters in Boston.
Some other headlines we're watching this morning. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says he'll call for a vote to extend funding for 9/11 victims and responders.
McConnell says the measure ensuring the fund will never run out of money will be taken up before the Senate's August recess. The promise follows activist Jon Stewart accusing McConnell of slow-walking the bill for political reasons.
And California Congressman Duncan Hunter is facing new allegations of misusing campaign cash. Prosecutors claim the married lawmaker spent some of that money on affairs with 5 women.
He and his wife are already charged with using $200,000 on trips and personal expenses. Hunter has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing.
Fans of a young YouTube star are in shock this morning after his body was pulled from New York City's East River. Desmond Amofa, known online as Etika, had been missing since last week. The 29-year-old's belongings were found on a nearby bridge. The gaming personality expressed suicidal thoughts in a video posted last week that raised concern among fans. That video has been taken down.
And a 20-year-old in Michigan is now a real-life miracle man after doctors say they brought him back from the dead.
Michael Pruitt suffered a massive shock when a metal ladder he was carrying touched a live wire. Doctors say he was dead, no vital signs for 20 minutes. Shocks from a defibrillator weren't working until they ramped up the power and they finally got a heartbeat. When he regained consciousness, doctors say Pruitt turned into the Incredible Hulk.
All of a sudden, he's just, pulling at his tubes, and, we saw all his limbs moving, which was really a good sign for us.
Pruitt said, "I remember being electrocuted while holding that ladder and shaking, and then nothing." His mom said, "I knew he'd be okay when Michael made a sarcastic gesture when I asked if he had any other superpowers."
Wow, a shock took him out, a shock brought him back.
Yeah, you're right.
And coming up, Democratic presidential candidates prepare to face off.
We'll have a preview what to look out for in tonight's first debate when we come back. Welcome back. A new chapter in the race for the White House begins tonight with the first debate among the Democrats.
It's the first of 2 consecutive debates in Miami that will feature 20 presidential hopefuls. ABC's Lana Zach has a preview.
Hey guys, there are so many candidates on this stage and all of them will get 60 seconds to answer a question, 30 seconds for rebuttal. It's not a lot of time before the field starts to get winnowed down.
The race for the White House kicks off in a big way today.
The eyes of the political world will be upon them in Miami for at least a night or two.
20 Democratic candidates qualifying for the first debate split over 2 nights. The Democratic National Committee says the number of candidates facing off is unprecedented. And unlike other years, the DNC claims there's no so-called kids table, with second-tier candidates relegated to a lesser debate. Facing off tonight, Elizabeth Warren in center stage.
Our government is supposed to reflect our values. Our government is supposed to keep us safe.
Her campaign poll numbers steadily moving up in recent weeks.
She has a chance to dominate.
To her right, Cory Booker making headlines recently for his split with former Vice President Joe Biden over remarks about working with segregationists in the past. Another big name in the mix tonight, Beto O'Rourke, who opens strong with big fundraising numbers but hasn't seen much upward movement in polls lately.
It's going to be tough, right? We've got 60 seconds to respond to some of the biggest questions that are on the minds of the American people right now.
They'll be sharing the stage with 7 other Democrats: Bill de Blasio, Tim Ryan, Julian Castro, Amy Klobuchar, Tulsi Gabbard, Jay Inslee, and John Delaney. Lesser known on the national stage, they'll be trying to make a name for themselves tonight, and every second will count.
They're going to have to come up with something that is memorable, short, and sweet, because if they don't, they're going to get lost in the clutter.
And we've been watching as so many people, candidate after candidate, announce that they are interested in pursuing the Democratic nomination. I got to tell you guys, even with 20 people having earned a spot on this stage, there are still some people who have been left out. Kenneth, Janae?
And we will be watching, and Lana, you're there with a front row seat. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Let's go across the pond now to Lama Hassan in the London Bureau for the latest on the rising tensions between Iran and the U.S. Good morning, Lama.
And good morning to you, Kenneth. Yes, you're absolutely right. A rise and escalating in the war of words, as well as the back and forth between Iran and the U.S. Here's the latest. President Trump threatening Iran with, quote, obliteration. The Iranian president, Hassan Rouhani, saying that the time for negotiating is over, adding that the White House is, quote, afflicted by mental retardation and doesn't know what to do. And of course, this all comes about after the U.S. slapped sanctions on Iran Iran, specifically targeting Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, because the U.S. believes that he is responsible or ultimately responsible for, quote, the hostile conduct of the regime. Now, the U.S. believes that Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has the means and is funding Iran's Revolutionary Guard. The sanctions also targeted other members in Iran's Navy, air and ground forces, as well as one of the top commanders in the Air Force, in Iran's Air Force, reportedly responsible for shooting down that U.S. surveillance drone last week. So as you said, yes, the words are escalating between, the war of words is escalating between Iran and the U.S. But having said all of this, the U.S. President Trump yesterday said, offered another chance to the Iranians to negotiate, because he said that Iran is suffering economically. But the Iranian president said that that's not going to happen unless they have relief in sanctions.
Lama, we like to eat. We like restaurants. Finally, the world's best restaurants of the year have been named, and Europe dominates the competition. So who took the #1 spot?
I know. You know what, Kenneth? This just means that you'll have to actually take a trip to this side of the world, if you like. So you have to cross the pond to sample these restaurants. But yes, you're absolutely right. So this restaurant is in the south of France, newly minted, newly crowned as the best restaurant in the world. This was it was named at an awards ceremony in Singapore by 50 of the world's best restaurants, over 1,000 culinary experts judging this, and I'm probably going to mispronounce it, so please forgive me, but it's called Mirazur, and they looked at several things. So not only did they look at the menu, which, by the way, includes salt-crusted beetroot with caviar cream, which sounds absolutely delicious, run by a chef from Argentina, but it also gave it the sort of the best overall ultimate experience because of its amazing views of the French Riviera. Can't go wrong there. Always a pleasure to see. As well as apparently it has 3 gardens of vegetables that, of course, you know, they use the produce. The chefs that work there. So looking overall at the whole experience, if you like. So not just the food and the dishes that they serve, but yeah, definitely one to probably visit very soon.
Apparently, number 23 on the list was the American restaurant, Mexican restaurant here in New York City. We were 23 on the list. Cosme there. I understand that London, you're not in the top 5 there. I thought London, the UK, was known for its culinary delights.
Well, let's look at yeah, exactly. Let's look at the dishes that it's famous for. Can you think of any? Fish and chips?
Something about chips, fish, I don't know.
Fried. Yes, it still sounds good though. But yeah, I can safely say that I haven't been to any of those restaurants on that list.
Well, you should partake. Lama Hassan, thank you, my friend. We appreciate it. Return now to Georgia. In the dramatic moment, a newborn's life was saved. The hours-old baby was found wrapped inside a plastic bag in the woods.
Newly released video shows the moment deputies arrived and saved her life.
Oh, look at you, sweetheart.
This morning, the moment many are calling a miracle.
Oh, look how precious you are.
A newborn girl, just hours old, found abandoned, wrapped in a plastic shopping bag.
I said it's got to be impossible. It's got to be a raccoon or a baby deer or something.
Alan Raggett and his family heard the baby's cries. They just happened to be outside that night after getting home from vacation.
We just started hearing noises and we were like, okay, I guess we'll just go look. Like, we were just like, what if it's an animal that needs help?
The family headed into the woods with a flashlight and followed the sound to a pile of leaves on top of a bath mat.
Pulled it up. There was a poor little baby wrapped up in a plastic bag, and we called 911.
It's in a bag. What's in a bag? The baby's in a bag. Is she breathing? She's crying. How old is the baby? It's newborn. Are they coming?
Deputies arrived and tore the bag open, finding the newborn with her umbilical cord still attached. Officers frantically wrapped the crying baby in a jacket. You can hear Deputy Terry Roper trying to comfort her.
Baby girl? Yeah, she's a sweetheart. She's a sweetheart.
I wanted to give her comfort. A little bit later, I realized that it was the first time that she had ever felt love.
The sheriff says Deputy Roper has kids of his own and knew how to comfort that baby girl.
He's a dad, and he is a good deputy and a good man,
more importantly. And so he went into dad mode.
That baby was taken to the hospital where nurses named her India. She's now in protective services in good condition. Authorities are trying to find her mother. They say she may not face charges depending on the circumstances.
Let's take a break from the news and check our notifications on social media with our friend Will Gans. Will, what's the first one you got up for us?
Hey, let's take a break from the news. Yeah, let's start with the toddler who just wanted to catch them all, but got stuck in a claw machine trying to get a stuffed Pikachu there.
Oh my goodness, looking so cute, but how in the world does she get in there? Just trying to get that toy. I mean, if they're tight enough to get in there, we've seen this before.
I know.
And it can be a little scary, but they got her out.
Gotta catch 'em all. Pokemon. Yeah. Well, up next, how about this for you? A Louisiana woman who had 34 bridesmaids at her wedding. She asked 50. Some of them couldn't make it to the wedding in Destin, Florida, which I'll be at in 2 weeks, by the way. Nice. Casmay Carter got married to Gary Carter Sr. on June 2nd in Destin. Her 6 sisters and 28 girlfriends were there to celebrate the big day with her. The singer-songwriter said she originally asked 50 of her closest friends to be her bridesmaids, but 16 of them weren't able to make it because of conflicts. But the cool thing is, though, she just asked people to wear a similar color and a similar shade of lip to kind of keep it easy on all of them.
Well, that was nice of her, but I still think that's just a little bit too much, right? That's too many. It's too many.
I mean, yeah, just imagine how long it took for everyone to process down the aisle at the beginning. You probably could have grown a full beard by the time all the bridesmaids made it up to the front.
I'm sure the groomsmen did, and they had to double up on some of those bridesmaids since there were only 16 of them.
Exactly. But luckily, everyone was chill. Everyone was calm. Unlike this next video, a woman was able to film this interaction between a mountain lion and some coyotes.
Wow.
Which team are you? Team Coyote or Team Mountain Lion?
I am Team Mountain Lion because those coyotes, they can be up to no good. And apparently, I understand this happened in Los Gatos, which is Spanish for the cats.
Oh, how fitting.
In California. So, you know what? Look at this, like, squaring off right there.
I know. Luckily, nobody was injured here either.
And the making of this.
Exactly, of this real-life Wile E. Coyote cartoon, yeah. And finally, some trick shots for you. Check out this ping pong pro setting up some obstacles and totally nailing it.
Can't wait for this. Wait for it.
Oh!
How? That is some skill right there.
That's impressive. I can hardly keep my ping pong paddle in my hand when I'm playing.
I can't even get like a good back and forth going with a ping pong competition. Like I can't even do it. And he is, yep, that's impressive.
So amazing.
There's no way that he regrets his major. Well, let me ask you, Will Gans, you regret your major at all?
Not at all, because it brought me here this morning with you guys hanging out right here, giving you the notification. So if my major worked out for me to get here, I'm happy with it.
Look at that. We appreciate you, Will Gans, and we're glad that you're here and that you stuck with that major.
Thank you.
Serves you well. Coming up, Will Gans will be back to talk about a GPS fail that left dozens of drivers stuck, about 100 cars blindly following directions down a dirt road. More after this.
Here's what to watch out for today. The first Democratic presidential debate kicks off tonight in Miami as part of a 2-night event with Cory Booker, Elizabeth Warren, Julian Castro, Beto O'Rourke, and more making their case to the American people.
The House Oversight Committee will meet to consider whether to subpoena Trump advisor Kellyanne Conway after the special counsel's office recommended she be fired for violating the Hatch Act by disparaging Democratic presidential candidates while speaking in her official capacity during television interviews and on social media.
Singer R. Kelly is due back in court on aggravated criminal sexual abuse charges involving 4 victims, including at least 3 between the ages of 13 and 17.
Democrats face Republicans in the annual congressional baseball game for charity, with funds raised going to charities including the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Washington. And Whoopi Goldberg hosts the opening ceremony of World Pride, the largest pride celebration in the world, here in New York, marking the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising and a half-century of LGBTQ liberation. Plus, don't forget to tune into The Debrief for an update on all our top stories.
And the briefing room for a breakdown of the latest headlines in politics. Now to one more reason why you should Trust road signs and your own eyes more than your GPS app.
Dozens of drivers in Colorado hoping to avoid a traffic snarl found the detour suggested by their GPS devices led them into a muddy mess. We direct you now to our own Will Gans.
That is right, you guys. The GPS glitch had about 100 drivers in Colorado all asking the same thing.
Hey Siri, where am I? No people, a few birds, and some bullet holes. That's what you'll find on 64th Ave in Aurora, Colorado. Certainly no cars. There's hardly a road there at all.
Take exit 286 onto Tower Road.
Which is why it was weird when GPS apps like Google Maps started sending drivers that way instead of staying on the main road. Connie Monsees was one of those drivers looking to beat the traffic after an accident up ahead.
It was supposed to be half the time.
Sound too good to be true?
And it spit us out onto a dirt road.
Connie and about 100 other cars kept going.
My thought was, well, all these other cars are in front of me, so it must be okay. So I just continued.
But then, thanks to wet weather, the road got muddy and slick.
And that's when I thought, oh, this was a bad decision.
Thanks to that mud and deep ditches, cars started to get stuck.
Why did Google send us out there to begin with? It just didn't make any sense. There was no turning back once you were there.
That's where things take a turn for the even more awkward. Connie's related to ABC Denver station traffic expert Jason Luber.
No, look, my wife gets stuck in traffic jams too.
Jason saying it's up to drivers to make the final call.
You're driving. Google Maps isn't driving. Google Maps isn't perfect. You need to know where you're going.
Yeah, so Connie's car bottomed out and she collected a lot of dirt and grass in the wheel wells, but luckily none of the damage to her car was serious. The other cars, not so lucky.
People have got to pay attention when it comes to these GPS as well, I think. I mean, I understand they were going with the flow of other traffic.
They thought, doing it.
Right.
But
after the first three did it, I'd be like, oh, I'm good to go.
If everybody else jumps off a bridge, would you? Well, if that jumping off a bridge is driving into
guys, I thought you were going to come with me.
No, we definitely were not. You know, this really wouldn't be a problem if Beyonce was the GPS. To the left, to the left.
Oh my God.
Everything
Or people still had those big old maps that open up and they're like, wait, where are we?
You're trying to find what you highlighted.
Does even work.
That's true, that's
well,
true.
lesson learned.
Well,
there.
thanks for guiding us in the right direction always. Well, we appreciate it. All right, that's it for us. We appreciate Will. Thanks so much. We will see all of you tomorrow.
See ya.
Have a great day.